Yeah, hi. It's a pleasure for me to be on stage and tell you something about situationalization, which is personalization on steroids. But before we start with the talk, I would like to know who of you has recommendation implemented on his site? And who of you thinks this is personalization? And who of you is using personalized newsletters? Okay, it's not that much. And who of you is using personalized content on the website? Okay, so for the most of you, I have a lot of content to tell about. So in order to understand what situationalization is all about, we need to take a look at personalization first. So we do a small experiment. We do personalization now in our head. So what we do is we try to offer a drink to George Clooney. I mean, George Clooney is a person we all know, so we have all the data which we need to have in order to personalize, right? So now George Clooney wants to have a drink and you offer him, maybe an espresso because you know him. But you don't know in which situation he is. So maybe he's currently sitting with his wife at a dinner and wants to have a glass of champagne. Or he's sitting with his friend on a campfire and would like to have a whiskey. So this is the big difference. The situation drives the relevance. So you need to take the situation into account, and this is what situationalization is all about. But let us step one step back and think about, why are we doing all this? Why are we doing personalization, situationalization? Why are we heading to this in our online shops? It's because of customer experience, right? We want our customers to have a great experience. We want them to come back. We want them to be loyal customers. So now here comes the information from PwC. They made a survey where they asked 15,000 users. So their online shops, they have their opinion about customer experience, but what do you think about customer experience as a user? So please vote what is important for customer experience from your perspective, and what are you willing to pay for more if this is true. So this is what the result is all about from PwC. And the most important thing here is personalization is somewhere in the midfield. And people are not willing to pay that much more for personalization. So on the vertical axis, you see if they are willing to pay more. But what they are willing to pay more is convenience and efficiency. I mean, think about it. You also want to have a good experience. You want to find your stuff quite fast. You want to have efficient way to find the products you're looking for, and it should be convenient. So now comes the challenge all shops face. So usually they have plenty of products listed on plenty of pages. I mean, ask yourself, who is willing to flip pages anymore? If it's not on the first page, it's gone, right? Google taught us over a year, everything which is relevant is on the first page. Afterwards, it's only crap. And this knowledge, this habit we take from Google to online shops and go to the first page and look, is there something which I want to look for or not? And then I leave the shop. So it's so important to have the right products on the first page. And I mean, even this endless scrolling, so you don't have pages anymore, you have just endless scrolling, but at one point you stop just scrolling and then it's done, right? So you need to understand your customer, you need to show the right products on the first page. But now comes what we call the dilemma of relevance. So every user wants to see the right product which is relevant for him. And we as the shop also want to show every user the right product. But if you look into reality, you only know about 20% of these users. So if you try to identify, oh, I know him, I know what he purchased in the past, it's about 20% you see on the first site or identify them. Maybe it's more after checkout, but then it's too late. And this is even getting worse with GDPR or e-privacy, right? So, and this is the 80% which you don't know. So it's 80% of the users entering your shop where you don't have a clue who this is and how shall you show them relevant products. So they are all getting the same lists currently, which is obviously wrong because we don't want to buy all the same stuff. So this results in disappointment, dissatisfaction, and high bounce rates. So, and here is where situationalization comes in. So now let's look at the situation, because it's not only when sitting on a campfire or sitting in a restaurant for dinner, it's also about your shopping situation. Think about different shopping situations. For example, Sunday afternoon, you sit on your couch at home with your tablet and search for some new jackets. That's one situation. Next situation, it's Monday morning before work. You sit there, maybe in countryside of Sweden. The other one was in the outskirts of Berlin, for example. So it's also a difference if you are somewhere in a metropolitan area or if you're somewhere in countryside. And so on the Monday morning, you're much more in a rush. You need to buy something fast. Or even worse, you are on your way to work, maybe in London. In the city center of London, you are connected with 4G and you are running to your job. So completely different shopping situation. Or Long Island, Wednesday morning, tablet, Long Island, you sit there and try to shop. So the situation is what drives the relevance. So this, we all understand that these different shopping situations will result in different relevance of the products. But now you will ask, how do I know? So let's look into the data. What kind of data points do we have in order to identify these kind of information or these kind of situations? So what kind of situational data is always available? So whenever you click on an ad, this is sent to the shop. So we know the referrer. We know if he's coming from Google, if he's coming from Facebook or Instagram, if he clicked on a banner or affiliate, whatever. So we know this. So we know the first intention and what gave him the inspiration to come to our shop. Also, for sure, we know the weekday and we also know the time of the day. So we know if it's Monday morning or Sunday afternoon. They cannot hide. And we know the device. They always send the information about the device. So we know if he's currently on a smartphone, on a tablet, on a new phone, if it's an iPhone X or if it's an Android S6, Samsung S6, or if it's a tablet or a Windows computer or a MacBook with a pre-installed Safari, or he installed Firefox afterwards. All these kind of information points do we have. We can also read cookies, so we know, oh, this is not a first-time visitor, I know him already, or I don't find a cookie, so it is a first-time visitor. And also, everyone needs to send his IP address, otherwise I cannot send him anything back. So we can use this IP address to roughly get an idea where he is currently located. So it's not about the street address or something, but we know, okay, it's Berlin, it's not countryside of Bavaria. So we know this is a metropolitan area. And if we have the time and we have the geolocation, we also know the weather. So we can also say something about the weather he's currently in. And additionally, we have something which we call the real-time persona. The real-time persona is based on properties of clicked products. So if you think about yourself, so you as the same person, you have different situations where you want to buy something. So sometimes you want to buy very high quality things, and the next day you want to just buy something in sales because you just need it, but it's not so important for you. So one day you are in the sales guy persona, and the next day you are in the high quality brand persona. So based on the products you click, you can identify what is he currently looking for. Or maybe you look for a present for someone else. So it's not you who is shopping, you're shopping for someone else. So this is what you also need to take into account, the real-time persona. So this kind of data, now you might say, okay, yes, I know, nice. But how does this affect my shop? Does it? So let's look into the data. Let's look into the data, and here this is data from a streetwear shop. So now, usually shops show the top sellers of the last 30 days or last 60 days, something like this. But imagine you show top sellers for the region. So here you see the top sellers for Germany in a 30-day time frame. And now compare it to the top sellers in France. This is obviously different, right? So people in France buy different t-shirts in this shop than in Germany. Now let's look into the regions. So for example, compare Saxony with Bavaria. Even on this smaller level, it's different. That's interesting. So let's go for the operating system or the device. So we have the Mac, and we compare it with an Android device. Oops. It's slightly different, okay. Or the weekday. So compare Sunday with Saturday. So you now have these lists, and you say, okay, yeah, for sure, but isn't this random? Good question. So let's think about how can we prove if this is random or not. So for that, we treat these lists, which are sorted by orders. So it's the top sellers. So the one on the top was sold most, and then so on. So we can treat this as a frequency distribution. So now we have the task to compare different frequency distributions. So there are statistical methods to do so. And one is the contingency coefficient. And with the contingency coefficient, you can compare different frequency distributions. This first just tells you something about how different are these distributions. But it doesn't tell you something about if it's random. So for that, you take the chi-squared test, which most of you might know, have heard someday past. You don't know how to calculate it, it doesn't matter, but it exists and it tells you something about randomness. And this is how you could show it up. So these are all the parameters a user brings when he enters a site. And we did this calculation for a special shop to calculate what is the effect of a specific attribute on the products which were bought. So in order to understand this a little bit more, let's look into details. So you see also a random parameter, which means we have random samples, just random samples of the users. So there should be no effect, right? So let's look. This is how it looks for the random samples. And you see there is some difference, which you see with the transparent areas. So this means the contingency coefficient shows there is a difference in the distributions. But the chi-squared test tells us this is all random. So this is how random looks like. Now let's look into the geolocation or the country. And you see this looks completely different than random. So here we have a statistical confidence that the products which were bought per country are different. And now we can go even deeper and see per region. And you see, even per region, it is significantly different. So this kind of analysis, every one of you can do who has an online shop. You can do it. You can run your sample data. You know what's the orders. You know all the properties of your users. So you can do it. You can just go back home after this presentation, and then you can start calculating it, and you will see it will hold true for your shop as well. And this is for many different parameters. So what can you do now? If you know this, that this region is significantly different, you can build rules. So you can say, okay, if someone is coming from Saxony, show him this list. If someone is coming from Bavaria, show him this list. This is nice on a small scale, but if it comes to a bigger scale, then it's not nice anymore. Then you need to automate this. And now I'm going to show you how this can be automated. So we have all this sample situational data. For example, like come from Instagram on a banner and Monday morning with an iPad in Berlin, and it's a new customer. You might have also a real-time persona as well, which could even add the profile here. And if you know the person, you can also use historical data you know already, like CRM data, like the past buying history, or gender, or price sensitivity, things like this. And now you need to build a real-time clustering. So now you need to find those people who have been in a similar situation or who had a similar profile. Once you got this kind of persons, you have the real-time cluster. So it's like a segment, but not a predefined segment. It's a segment especially for this person. Then you can do a prescriptive analysis of all the products and can calculate how did this group interact with the different products of my list and what is the most relevant product. The bad news is, in order not to crash the customer experience, you need to do this in 20 milliseconds. So the good news is, with the help of ODOSCOPE, this is possible. So you can do that in 20 milliseconds. Even on huge amount of data sets. So this is how it would look like, for example. We have some sample situations. So on the left-hand side, we have an Apple user in Baden-Württemberg with a Chrome on Friday evening. And on the right-hand side, we have someone from Sachsen-Anhalt with a Windows computer via Wi-Fi and Internet Explorer on a Monday morning. So nice, good, all fine. But what if the most relevant product is no longer on stock? You don't want to show it as on the first place if it's no longer on stock, because this will crash your customer experience. So you need to find a way to overrule this. So you need to say, okay, based on product attributes, please influence this ranking. But if you are able to do this on stock availability, you can also do it on other properties. Like, for example, my private brand should always rank a little bit higher. Or we just have a sales season, so I boost all products a little bit more with sales, which are on sale. This is still data-driven, and everyone gets still a different listing, but products are bubbled a little bit more up. So this is how you can do assortment control. So you can say, okay, I want to boost my new collection, I want to penalize products which are not on stock, and things like this. So how is this all working? The thing is, it works all on your data. So it runs on first-party data, because this is the data. This is your treasure which you already have. You collected data over years about your shop. So you have this all in your data warehouse, data lake, whatever. So you track this. And we're going to import this first-party data into the ODOSCOPE cloud, put it there, and make it available for your data scientists, for example, who can enrich the data, model the data. We have a Python interface here, so they can do this as well. And then you can put additional data points in there. The operator can use this software to set up strategies, to run different tests. So you can do test-driven. So if it's good to boost prices, or should I lower prices? What works better in terms of basket size, conversion rate, and so on? And additionally, the business owner can even set the goals and say, okay, please optimize on this metric. I want this metric to be optimized. Like, for example, my return rate, or I want to optimize on basket size, or on conversion rate, or on margin, whatever. So, and then ODOSCOPE plays this out in real time with real-time clustering in 20 milliseconds. It's connected directly into your shop and makes context-based operational decisions. This is then measured again by your tracking tool. So we don't implement a new tracking tool. We just use the tracking data which is already there. It's then tracked into your data lake and then imported, and this is how the circle goes. So there's a nice intuitive dashboard where you can do your comparison when you run different strategy tests. You know if it's if you have reached confidence level, if it's significant, if one is better than the other or worse. So you have plenty of tools here to work with. And here's now a case study of, Tennis Point. So with Tennis Point, this is one of the leading online shops for tennis. Here's a list of shoes, and this is how ODOSCOPE presents it, for example, for someone with a mobile phone on LTE on Monday morning. And this is how it was presented by someone coming from Facebook with a Windows machine. And this helped them to gain an uplift of up to 65%, especially on mobile devices. So just by resorting the lists, putting something from the end of the lists in front of it, and especially on mobile devices where the space is very limited, it's very important to have the right product at the first place. Or, for example, InStyle. This is not an e-commerce shop. This is a content commerce platform, but they show articles. It's a lifestyle magazine, and they have articles about celebrities, beauty, hairstyling, and you don't know what to show right in this moment because you have this full rainbow of different topics. So we decided what article to show next, how the lists of categories need to be listed, and this helps them to keep people longer on the page, and by this generate more advertising. So they have a huge uplift in ad impressions. So these are companies who are currently using situationalization, and they gain an uplift of up to 88%. This is, so if you gain very high uplifts, this is usually on mobile devices. So coming to the highlights. First of all, you can monetize your own data. It's fully GDPR compliant because you don't need to have personal data for this. You just take the situation into account. You can build your own business logic with it. It's a very, very fast performance. It's usually even faster than your search engine or whatever you use to build your lists usually. So this response time of 20 milliseconds is like a cache, right? So you have a personalized page which is as fast as coming from a cache. You have an intuitive interface. You can boost your revenues. It's a self-learning technology, but you can also interact with it. And it's a fast integration. So if you want to get this presentation, here's the QR code where you can get it for free. You can also type in the URL, but whatever you like more. We will put this presentation, I guess, from e-commerce Berlin Expo also on YouTube. And my colleagues are here also. If you have more questions, you can find them with the same shirt as me. They are running around this area. And maybe you have some questions to me.
Hello. I want to ask, you here? Here. Yeah? Okay. I want to ask how big you need to be to start working with you.
How people start working with us?
No, how big I need to be, how many sales I need to have to start working with you.
Sorry, I did not get the question.
How big does one person need to be to start working with you?
Sorry. How big? How big? Okay. So we usually say that we start with 100,000 visits per month.
So you said that you have 20 milliseconds for the recommendations and you do it live. So do you pre-calculate all the recommendations, or like what kind of trick do you do to do 20 millisecond recommendations?
If we repeat these calculations, yeah, the calculation is done in real time when you enter the URL. This is done, and it's done every time you request the page. But if you're in the same situation, you will get the same result. And we can we can also discuss about what happens with this real-time persona. So if you click on products and go back to the same list, if it should change or not. Yeah, so we can do both.
Check, check. So this might be a very strange question. So using the real-time clustering and prescriptive analysis technology that you use, is there in your mind any way to see what maybe someone's family might be interested in?
His family?
Yeah, family, because there's the real-time clustering of people that are similar to that person. I know it's a weird question. Maybe that's never been came up before, but there you go.
If you present me data of families, then we can do this. Yeah. So if you know, okay, these are data sets which are marked with families. So this user and this user belong to the same family. If you're able to mark it, then we are able to build something out of it and can build a peer group, something like this. Yeah. So we say, okay, for example, mothers who buy this kind of shirts, buy this kind of trousers, pants for their child. Yeah. But I mean, you can also cross-correlate against different categories. Yeah. So you say the shirts category, people how they behave in the shirts category, how do they behave in kids' pants? Same person. Then you can correlate it, and this is maybe how you can solve this. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the presentation first. And the question is around data volume specifically. How do you maintain performance when you have very, very large data sets, and then we're talking about millions and millions of visits?
Yeah.
Potentially.
The baseline of our software is a self-developed in-memory data grid. So we run our own in-memory data grid, which scales horizontally. It's a shared nothing architecture, which means that if you have more data, you just put more computers beside, and you get the same response time. So the aggregation between the results of the different servers is just addition, nothing more. So it's not very expensive, yeah? And it runs on commodity hardware, so you don't have to have like supercomputers or something. You can just run like usual Xeon processors. All right. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I hope you got some insights. Enjoy your day.